Well, overnight, a major bombshell was delivered during the impeachment hearings of American President Donald Trump, with the president's own ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, admitting he pressured Ukraine. This is his version of the truth, that Donald Trump will dispute it. He was pressured, this is the ambassador, to investigate the family connections of the would-be Democrat candidate Joe Biden directly on Mr. Trump's orders, and that other senior administration officials were fully aware of the pressure campaign. Ambassador Sondland's testimony is being reported as a shock due to his close alliance with the president. It is said that he even donated to his previous presidential campaign. Sky News reporter Amanda Walker has more.
Wild card witness. No one knew if EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland would help or hurt President Trump. His testimony turned out to be the most damning yet.
Mr. Giuliani's requests were a quid pro quo for arranging a White House visit for President Zelensky. Mr. Giuliani demanded that Ukraine make a public statement announcing the investigations of the 2016 election, DNC server, and Burisma. We worked with Mr. Giuliani because the president directed us to do so.
Burisma refers to Joe Biden. Sondland also tied the push for an investigation of Trump's political rival to the Secretary of State, Vice President, and Acting Chief of Staff.
Everyone was in the loop. It was no secret.
But he is not the Democrats' perfect witness. While he directly ties a White House meeting to the quid pro quo, he's unable to do the same with military aid.
I did not hear directly from President Trump that the aid would be held up until the statement was made. I did not hear those words.
He also corroborated Trump's defense, which he unusually gave from emphatically handwritten notes.
I want nothing. I want nothing. I want no quid pro quo. Tell Zelensky to do the right thing. Then he says, this is the final word from the President of the United States. I want nothing. Thank you, folks. Have a good time. I'm going to bed.
Joining me now for the Thursday panel, Daily Telegraph opinion editor and co-host of Sky News Outsiders, James Morrow, and Sky News host, Jane Marwick. Now, James, I watched this till about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was fascinating. The salivating of the press pack, doing crosses from outside the room, and then they obviously went in and the testimony started. It had a lot of theatre about it, so that tells you a lot, doesn't it?
Huge amounts of theater, and, you know, a lot of the press in the United States, certainly, I don't think it's any secret, is really gunning for the president as well on this, that they want to see this impeachment push succeed. So what was fascinating looking at it and watching it all play out was at one point, CNN had been running a strap that said that this guy, Sondland, had said that there was a quid pro quo, while he was actually saying that there wasn't a quid pro quo over the Russian aid, or the aid to Ukraine. So they were so desperate to get him, and in fact later on, after all of those first headlines made the headlines around the world, then later on he was questioned by a Republican from Ohio, I'm not sure if we have a clip, but who said, did anybody ever tell you that you had to do this for that to happen? And he said no. So there's a whole thing that's just sort of been talked up, but then it didn't turn out to be, like so many things that the Democrats have on Trump here, the big thing that they wanted. And the danger for the Democrats, Peter, is that the more they push this, the more they're going to wind up talking about the Bidens. And, you know, in the Ukraine overnight, there was also a story. It released a bunch of indictments around this Burisma company, which Hunter Biden, who had absolutely no experience in oil, gas, or the Ukraine, wound up working as a board member for at $50,000 US a month, and has done a lot of other work in China and for other countries, simply, I think, on the strength of the fact that his father was vice president at the time. So the further they go with this, they're taking a big risk that in getting Donald Trump, they're also going to form a circular firing squad and wind up hitting Biden. So it's by no means a lay-down thing for the Democrats.
And of course, if they do that, if they remove Biden from the race, Jane, they remove probably the most palatable, I mean, he's gaffe prone and all these other things, but the most palatable of the candidates there in the Democratic runoff, because the issue they've got is the rest of them are absolutely on the hard left and are unelectable. And all of this stuff, this noise, this white noise, to the man and woman in middle America that voted for the president to ease the Rust Belt hopelessness of their lives, this just confirms their prejudices. And if you're in New York and LA, this sort of confirms their prejudices. So I don't think it's necessarily a vote shifter at this stage.
Look, I'm not so sure that it's a vote shifter. I think you're right. It just confirms whichever corner that you're in. We know that this impeachment inquiry, as the Americans call it, isn't rating very well on TV. People are getting on with their jobs. You know, Black America is enjoying greater employment and marginalised groups for a long, long time. Wages are up for a lot of people who you would think would be never Trumpers. They're actually having a better set of circumstances play out for them domestically. Look, it seems to me, and I, like you two, follow this very, very closely and spend all hours watching it, it seems to me the Democrats are just hell-bent on impeachment. I can't wait till this gets to the Senate. I also love the way the Democrats have so-called witnesses who don't know Donald Trump, have never spoken to Donald Trump and didn't hear the phone call. It's quite a farce, and I think that for people who are really interested in the nitty-gritty of politics, it's extraordinary just watching the chairman, Adam Schiff, and the way he handles himself. But for everyone else, they're busy, they've got jobs, they're paying their taxes, they're getting on with it, and this, to me, smacks of the deep state, Peter.